is this something that could flare up later? And if that's the case, and it's something that could flare up later, then you would be a little more cautious now to try to make sure that it's really taken care of so that it doesn't flare up later.
I mean, honestly, like he had this injury in Washington.
Yep.
They knew about it.
Yep.
And so over the course of this summer, I would assume that, he was getting work put on to that back, or at least they were evaluating his back and making sure everything. But even that didn't work because we got to the preseason and all of a sudden that back tightened up again. He was, having spasms and stuff. We saw him in the middle of a game squat down, and I was like, why is Bradley Beal dropping it low? And it was because he was trying to stretch that back out.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, we haven't seen him since.
Right.
And so I'm not worried about right now. I'm worried about when we get to March, April, May, June, when you really, really need him.
Right.
And the games are far more intense than a regular ass preseason game in Detroit against a bunch of scrubs. Like, I don't care about that. I care about what's it going to look like when we have to play the Lakers in the first round or the Nuggets in the second or third round. Like, that's important.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, listen, if you're asking me, am I worried about the long term? Anytime you hear back, of course. Short term, I'm not worried at all. And I know that's my biggest point. A lot of people are already diagnosing him with a severe back injury that's going to need surgery. That's not the case. But I think it's very smart to be a little bit more cautious now so that we don't have that problem later. And I think that the schedule allows it a little bit. Like, we do have a little bit of a light schedule here. And so I think it's okay to be a little bit more cautious, although he said they're not being cautious. And so we're back into this realm of, what's he saying and what's he really saying? And it's a tricky little thing, but I'm truly not concerned about Brad Beal short term. But I do see your point. If this is something that could continue to happen in long term, yeah.
Well, let's talk about, okay, so we expect Book. What are you hearing about Book?
I think Book is fine. Book has a timeline. We talked about it the other day. I'm thinking it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks, and we've already hit a week today. Okay. He's at the point now where they're going to start revving up. And I'm going to be very upfront. From the conversations I've had, this is just my opinion. No one's going to go out here and say this. But from conversations I'm having behind the scenes, I wouldn't be shocked if we don't see Book until Chicago. Until that, I think it's November 6th in the road on a Wednesday against Chicago, or maybe that Friday night at home versus the Lakers. But I will say this. I think Devin is itching to play right now. And you got to protect him from himself. So Devin's injury is not serious. It's a mild sprain. We're a week into it. Now we have a week of a rev up. And then if that rev up goes well, I think he returns in this timeline, that 2-week timeline. And if he needs the extra week, then you give it to him. But I think Flex is, I just read something there. I think Book is fine, and I think Beal is fine. And here's some, I said this the other day, I think Beal will be back before Book. And I'm not backing off of that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they come back together.
I'd be shocked if Beal was back before Book.